Slower, slower. Concentrate on one thing. That's better. Hey, welcome to Class Act Media. I'm Jack, and we have hit a monumental moment in Doctor Who history, folks. The first time the Doctor has ever regenerated. Would this gamble end up paying off in the long run, or would it backfire horribly? I mean, obviously it worked out because the show's still on the air today, but stick around anyway? Yeah, this was a very risky move from the BBC. William Hartnell's performance as the Doctor was one of the most beloved parts of Doctor Who, and such a drastic recast as Patrick Troughton was bound to upset the fan base at least a little bit. Troughton played the Doctor as a pretty different character than Hartnell did. Just on appearance alone, he's a lot less well kept than the first Doctor. The jacket that's too big, the undone shirt collar, the crooked bow tie, and the loose handkerchief all earned him the fan-given nickname of the Cosmic Hobo, which really fits him well. As for his performance, Troughton played the Doctor as a much more goofy character than before. He's clumsy, silly, and he even makes puns.
The power cable generated an electrical field and confused their tiny metal minds. You might almost say they've had a complete metal breakdown.
The second Doctor was also sort of nervous all the time. Maybe it's just me, but in almost every scene he's in, he seems kind of on edge and excitable. I prefer my Doctor to, at least most of the time, be on top of things, but that's just personal preference. But probably my favorite thing about the second Doctor is that he began to take on a much more heroic role. While the first Doctor was more of an observer who only got involved if he was in danger or if his companions insisted on it, the second Doctor actively sought out situations where he could save lives. If you're a modern Doctor Who fan, this is where the Doctor starts to become the character we know him as today. Not just in personality, but also in the lore. This era gave the Doctor more of a history. We found out the name of his race, the Time Lords, as well as why he began traveling in the first place. Basically, Time Lords have mastered the secrets of instantaneous time and space travel, but only use these abilities to watch from a distance. The Doctor got tired of knowing that there was this whole universe out there that he wasn't allowed to explore, so he stole the TARDIS from the Time Lords and fled. Giving context to who the Doctor is and why he does what he does did take some of the mystery out of his character, but I think it was for the better. As an audience, we had been following the Doctor for so long that it was finally time to learn a little bit about him. But hey, Doctor Who has always been just as much about the companions as it is about the Doctor, so how are the second Doctor's companions? Well, first of all, Ben and Polly carry over from the first Doctor, and they're still great. Polly's got a lot of charisma and a fantastic sense of humor, which mixes well with the second Doctor's sillier personality. I also really like Ben. He's very heroic and courageous, always ready to put himself in danger to save other people. Plus, he often plays the straight man to the Doctor and Polly's shenanigans, which is hilarious every time. They eventually left, of course, leaving room for two new companions, Jamie and Victoria. Let's start with Victoria. She's fine, I guess. I don't know, she doesn't have a whole lot of personality. She's just not very smart and doesn't serve much of a role on the team other than being pretty. Jamie, on the other hand, is just fantastic. He is the living embodiment of Scottish stereotypes. He's brash, always ready to fight someone, and he always wears a kilt. Plus, he and the Doctor had an excellent friendship. They were just bros.
There's nothing gay about two straight dudes holding hands, buddies.
Jamie's basically the audience stand-in, always telling the Doctor to slow down when he starts to ramble about science stuff that makes no sense. And then, after Victoria left, we got my favorite second Doctor companion, Zoe. My god, I love Zoe. She has my favorite motivation of any of the Doctor's companions up to this point. She's a genius, having memorized facts and figures that ultimately proved useless when the space station she worked at was attacked by Cybermen and she was woefully unprepared. Realizing that there was clearly more to the universe than she had thought, Zoe asked the Doctor if she could travel with him, and he of course accepted. Up to this point, most companions' motivations had been, oh cool, time and space travel, that sounds like fun. So it was interesting to see a character with more reason to join the Doctor. On top of that, Zoe is incredibly smart, resourceful, and is even skilled in combat. In fact, she's almost too useful, to the point where she kind of overshadows the usefulness of the Doctor sometimes. But she's still awesome, so I'll give it a pass. While I do like the second Doctor's companions as individuals, I'm not very fond of how they work as a team unit. After the amazing camaraderie between companions like Ian and Barbara, Vicky and Steven, even Ben and Polly, I just never felt the same chemistry between Jamie and Victoria or Zoe. At least they all had good rapport with the Doctor, which is probably the most important thing. And now we get to the stories with a very big asterisk. Matrix. You see, in the 70s, the BBC archive purged a lot of episodes of classic Doctor Who for legal reasons that I don't fully understand involving licensing rights. The second Doctor serials took the brunt of this, with only 2 surviving complete serials existing for the second Doctor's first 2 seasons. Luckily, there is this DVD, Doctor Who Lost in Time, which has scattered surviving episodes from various incomplete serials. But it's a real shame that I can't watch these all on the streaming service I'm using, that being BritBox, that only has complete serials. Even though a lot of episodes have been lost forever, there are a few that have been restored. Stories like The Web of Fear and The Wheel in Space used the surviving audio from lost episodes and overlaid them with stills in order to complete the serials. The Invasion uses animation to fill in the missing episodes, and to a larger extent, The Power of the Daleks is 100% animated. It's cool that we're able to see these previously lost episodes, but the animation seems a little bit lazy to me. Most of classic Doctor Who requires a lot of imagination on the part of the viewer, since the budget is so low and the sets and costumes, while impressive, don't always look incredibly believable. Animating these episodes had so much potential, but unfortunately it just doesn't live up to it. There are a great deal of cut corners here. I mean, look at this, they didn't even animate the Doctor's legs moving as he walks. Oh well, at least these stories that were previously lost to time can now be brought back to the public. Other than that, I think the pacing problems that were present with the first Doctor serials, while not gone entirely, have been greatly improved, with the stories having a lot less needless padding and wheel spinning. Also, this isn't a complaint, just a weird observation I had. It seemed like the majority of these serials used the Cybermen as the villains. I mean, I like the Cybermen a lot, there are just so much of them in this era. I guess they're the easiest villains to write for, since their only motivation is to turn people into Cybermen, not much to it. Okie dokie, almost done, but before we go, let's count down the top 5 second Doctor serials. Number 5, The Enemy of the World. The Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria arrive in the not-too-distant future where they learn that a man named Salamander, who happens to look just like the Doctor, has basically taken control of the entire world. The Doctor is kidnapped by a team of resistance fighters who want to use his likeness to take Salamander down, but the Doctor is hesitant to get involved since he has no proof that Salamander has any bad intentions. I like this one because it really defines the moral code of the Doctor going forward. He won't blindly act against someone or something unless he is certain that what he's doing is just. Plus, his speech to Salamander at the end is just awesome.
We're going to put you outside, Salamander. No friends, no safety, nothing. You'll run, but they'll catch up with you.
Also, why is the story called The Enemy of the World? Isn't every Doctor Who villain an enemy of the world? The Daleks don't want to destroy just Idaho. Number 4, The War Games. The TARDIS lands on a world where soldiers from various wars have been mind-controlled into thinking they are still fighting in their respective wars forever, as part of a twisted plan to build an army for galactic domination conceived by a man called the War Chief, who turns out to be a Time Lord. I really like the premise of this serial. It's pretty creative and stands out from the standard, here is a bad guy, stop them, kind of story. It also introduced the Time Lords and the Doctor's backstory to the mythos, so you gotta give it props for that. Number 3, The Invasion. A wealthy tech mogul is quickly becoming one of the most successful businessmen in the world with his high-tech gadgets, but the Doctor suspects something sinister is at play. He's of course proven right, as the billionaire is revealed to be in league with the Cybermen in a plot to take over the world. This is just a really solid story. It's incredibly well-paced, has great action and dialogue, plus it introduces UNIT, the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, to the Doctor Who lore. They're a government agency tasked with tracking down and stopping hostile alien life, sort of like the Men in Black, but more British. I'll talk about them more in my 3rd Doctor video, since they play a bigger role in that era. Number 2, The Mind Robber. In order to escape an erupting volcano, the Doctor teleports the TARDIS outside of reality. Yeah, that doesn't make much sense in context either, but roll with it. The Doctor and his companions quickly discover that this unreality, as he calls it, is ruled by a man called the Master. Not the same Master who would become the Doctor's arch-nemesis. He hadn't been introduced yet. There's a lot of creativity and clever wordplay at work here as the Doctor figures out the rules of the unreality, and it's just really fun to watch unfold. Number 1, The Power of the Daleks. I know I ripped on the animation of the restored version of this serial, but the story itself is excellent. The newly regenerated Doctor arrives at a human colony in space with Ben and Polly, where they find that a scientist is secretly experimenting on a few Daleks that he found. The Doctor tries to convince the scientist of the danger that the Daleks pose, but he simply won't listen. Meanwhile, a rebel group working to overthrow the leader of the colony attempts to use the Daleks as a weapon in their plan. The idea of people trying to direct the Daleks to their own end as sort of a force of nature is a great one, and it results in one of my favorite images in all of Doctor Who. During the Rebels' attack on the colony leader, the Daleks of course turn on them and start killing indiscriminately. What follows is a panning shot of everyone, Rebel and colony soldier alike, dead, with a Dalek standing over them. Absolutely chilling. The second Doctor's run came to an abrupt end when he was put on trial by the Time Lords and sentenced to indefinite exile to Earth as well as a forced regeneration. I may have not gotten to see a lot of it, and I may have preferred the first Doctor's run better, but I'll look back on the era of the Cosmic Hobo fondly. Well, what's going to happen to the Doctor when he's forced to spend an extended period of time in one time and place? Well, to find that out, you're going to have to tune into the next episode of my Doctor Who retrospective. See you next time, guys, and, no, stop it, you're making me giddy. No, you can't do this to me, no! No!